Hi, this is Josh Kulp. This is the video for Daf Yod Tet, page 19 of Masechet Kiddushin for Daf Shevui. Before I begin to talk about what occurs on this daf, I want to maybe just say a general word about what rabbis are interested in talking about, and I think that this is something that throws people a lot for a loop when they begin to learn rabbinic literature. Rabbis are interested in talking about topics that are legally interesting, legally complex. Maybe they're gray topics in the sense that the answers to them are not black and white. Rabbis are not necessarily interested in talking about the usual things that occur. They're not really, let's say, legalists in the sense that they're writing a legal code that they imagine will be easily adopted by society. And again, I don't want to say that they're not concerned about things like that, because sometimes they are, but oftentimes they're far more concerned with things that are legally complicated, even if they're completely impractical and not even practiced anymore, because they're just simply interesting for them. In that sense, I think that they're more like what I imagine pure mathematicians to be like, and not applied mathematicians. So the reason I bring this up is because this daf talks all about Yehud, this designation, where a master designates a girl that he's bought as a slave to become a wife for him or for his daughter. I've said this many times already. Rabbis did not practice this. As far as I know, we have no records of any Jews practicing this institution, but it's there in the Torah. Rabbis are spending a lot of time talking about this because it's interesting to think about it in terms of what is the nature of this contract, of this institution called Yehud, called marriage designation for a female slave. How does it work like Kiddushin, like regular betrothal, and how doesn't it? And it's something that for what I call liminal, something that like it's on the margins, if you will, of what Kiddushin really are. And as we'll see on this page, Rava uses it to explore the boundaries of Kedusha itself. So I think that then, again, that bears emphasis over and over and over again. And I know it's very, very hard for beginning students to really understand this, and I get a lot of pushback against this, but rabbis are not, let's say, the local judge or the local Rav Harashi, head rabbi, trying to answer questions that are happening right now. At least they often don't act like that. They often act like theoreticians, philosophers, legal philosophers, pure mathematicians, if you like. All right, enough of an introduction. The daf is mostly focused on Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, and that is concerned with the issue of when does the betrothal actually take place, or how does the betrothal through Yehud, through this designation, really take place. So let's just go through the two steps here. A master will buy a slave girl, he'll pay the father, and then later on, sometime during her term of servitude, he will designate her to be a wife for him or for his son. The question is that original transaction where the master pays the father, is that Kiddushin, like the normal form of Kiddushin, where the husband gives money to the father if the girl is too young to accept her own betrothal? Or when designation happens later, is that when Kiddushin happens? And if it does, what's the mechanism? We need something for Kiddushin to happen. Kiddushin isn't, generally speaking, just words, right? A man doesn't just go up to a woman and say, "Behold, you are betrothed to me, hareat mekudeshet li." He needs to give her something of value. Where is the giving part when it comes to designation? So Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda holds that the original sale is not Kiddushin, and therefore he has to ask, well, when does Kiddushin happen? And his answer is that he basically turns her from slave into wife and betroths her by not making her work the rest of her servitude. So what that means is he has to do this designation when she has at least a amount of time to do the work that's the value of a pruta. Okay, not a lot of time of work. Again, these things are theoretical, but essentially, let's say there's 2 days left of her servitude. The master can designate her and say, for the last 2 days, you're going to be a wife, and not a slave, and therefore that's how I'm betrothing you, by forgiving you this term of servitude, those last whatever amount of time it is. The other ramification that comes up, and so if you think that the original sale was, by the way, was Kiddushin, then it doesn't really matter. Basically, he just, poof, uses his words, transforms her from slave into wife, and we don't really need another mechanism of Kiddushin. At least the Gemara doesn't think so. The rabbis are also interested in her status during this period of servitude. Is she a quasi-married woman, or is she not? So if the first sale was the Kiddushin, then as soon as she's sold as a slave, she's essentially married. And if somebody else comes and tries to marry her in between, that marriage is not valid. Alternatively, if she doesn't really become a wife, if she's not betrothed until designation occurs sometime during the period of servitude, then if another person tries to marry her in between, again, he'd have to marry her through the father. Not a very nice thing to do for the father. And we'll see this called mocking in the Talmud. But if the father accepts Kiddushin for her, and she's not yet designated, then she's going to be betrothed to whoever the father now accepts Kiddushin for her. So again, the rabbis are looking for ramifications for this argument between Rabbi Yehuda and the other rabbis about whether the original sale was the Kiddushin, or whether Kiddushin happens later on, and those are the two major ramifications.